Basically, in the 12th century, a couple of green kids showed up in an English village.
Would you like to know more?
We're going to England, more specifically Suffolk County, and even more specifically Woolpit, which got its name from the Old English wolf pit, meaning a pit for trapping wolves, which the village had several of. This is important here in a minute. So the story goes that one day around harvest time, supposedly during the reign of King Stephen, which was about 1135 to 1154, the villagers of Woolpit discovered two children, a brother and sister, near one of the wolf pits. See, the village got the name for a reason. Their skin was green and they spoke an unknown language, plus their clothing was considered unfamiliar. They were taken to a local home, possibly that of Richard de Calne, where the pair refused all food for several days until they came across some raw broad beans, which are probably better known as fava beans, though they didn't find a nice Chianti, which they ate rather eagerly. At first, they would only eat the raw broad beans, but eventually the kids adapted to normal food and their skin became normal. The villagers, being villagers, decided to baptize the children, but the boy, who appeared to be the younger of the two and was described as being sickly, died either before the baptism or not long after. But the girl, who was still alive after the baptism, eventually learned to speak English. She explained that they came from a land where the sun never shone and was in a state of perpetual twilight, and according to one account, she called their home St. Martin's Land and claimed that everything there was green. As far as how they came to Woolpit, the stories vary. According to one, they had been herding their father's cattle when they heard a loud noise and suddenly they found themselves where they were found. Another says that they had become lost when they followed the cattle into a cave and after being guided by the sound of bells, eventually emerged where they were found. The girl was supposedly employed for many years as a servant in Richard de Calne's household, where she was considered to be very wanton and impudent. She would eventually marry and move away, and that's pretty much where that story ends. But is it true? Well, parts of it probably are, possibly the whole thing. England did have what was called green sickness, which was just their name for jaundice, but they had seen it and the children's skin color was well beyond what they knew. Some think they could have been Flemish, though that's not very likely because people would recognize the clothing and the Flemish language. Or it just could be completely made up. This whole thing is kind of like that monkey hanging we did a video on. It could be totally made up, it could be completely real, but most likely it's something in between. Oh, and not to be outdone, America has their own version of oddly colored folks, and that's the Fugates, also known as the Blue Fugates or the Blue People of Kentucky, who are carriers of a genetic trait that led to the blood disorder methemoglobinemia, this right here, which I'm not even going to try to pronounce right now, which causes the appearance of blue skin. It started with Martin Fugate and Elizabeth Smith, who had married and settled near Hazard, Kentucky around 1820. They were both carriers of the recessive MET-H gene. Yeah, not trying to say that one again. And as a result, 4 of their 7 children exhibited blue skin. And because the gene pool to mate with locally wasn't the most diverse, this condition was passed down. However, it was eventually cured and only a single family member shows any signs and it's pretty faint. So yeah, kinda in a way there really was a Papa Smurf.